Welcome to the Nogtog channel. The day before the wedding. My fiancé and his ex-girlfriend expressed their deep feelings for each other and mentioned their hope to be together in the next life. I felt a chill at his words and thought to myself, what do my years of dedication mean? He, however, dismissed it as a joke. So, when I suggested breaking up to let them be together, he said he still couldn't let me go. Our story officially begins. At the bridal shop. I was eagerly trying on wedding dresses, dreaming of tomorrow's ceremony, when I learned that my fiancé was meeting his ex-girlfriend at the seaside park. When I arrived at the seaside park, I saw him and Tessa Wynn sitting on a bench, nestled together, tearfully saying, "We must be together in the next life." I fought back the pain in my heart and approached them, demanding, "So what am I to you?" Seeing me, Finn Hale hurried to explain, "Alice Ray, don't misunderstand, it's just a joke." I scoffed, "Stop saying this nonsense. Enjoy your little world together." With that, I turned and walked away, letting the sea breeze brush against my face. He actually didn't come after me to explain, nor did he send me a text. Thinking back, I realized that I have always been accommodating to him. When did he ever care about my feelings? Feeling disheartened, I returned home and found an exquisite shell wind chime hanging in the living room, and there was a postcard on the table. The postcard read, "To the man I once loved dearly, wishing you happiness in your new marriage." It was signed Tessa. I smiled wryly at myself. I remembered the surprise I prepared for Finn's birthday last year, which he didn't even glance at. "Alice, don't give me these useless things. You'd be better off spending your time improving yourself." His criticism made me feel very upset at the time, and I blamed myself for a long time afterward. Now that I think about it, everything is clear. Who doesn't love surprises? It's just that he doesn't have feelings for me, no matter how hard I try. There was a time when we were an enviable couple. However, after Tessa returned to her country 3 months ago, Finn has grown increasingly distant towards me. Tessa said she had just returned and wasn't working, yet Finn recommended her for an interview at his company without telling me and even personally showed her around the office. A month ago, Tessa accidentally twisted her ankle at a company event, and Finn immediately dropped everything to accompany her to the hospital. I was worried about them being alone together, so I offered to go along. Before the car had even come to a stop, he hurriedly walked toward the emergency room, completely unaware of my presence. When I entered the examination room, I saw him carefully helping Tessa apply ice to her injury, appearing very concerned as if she had been seriously hurt. When he saw me come in, he explained that he was just helping to treat the injury casually, and there was no other intention. If it weren't for seeing Tessa's smug expression, I might have believed him. I reminded him that we were getting married and it would be better to keep some distance from Tessa. At first, he considered my feelings, but over time, he started to disregard them. "If we're getting married, why can't you even trust me on this? How did you become so cautious? She and I are just friends. There's nothing I can do if you think that way." During our arguments, he sometimes makes excuses to work late and stays out all night. At 10 o'clock in the evening, I sit alone in the dark living room, reminiscing about the scenes at the seaside park. Suddenly, the sound of the door lock turning interrupted my thoughts. Finn and Tessa entered, chatting and laughing, clearly surprised to find me waiting here. As soon as Tessa walked in, she started to scold me, "Alice, why did you come back alone? We had to look for you everywhere." I felt uneasy at her accusation and replied sarcastically, "If I hadn't come back, would you have been able to enjoy your time alone? It looks like you guys are having a great time." Tessa's expression changed slightly, clearly indicating that my words made her somewhat uncomfortable. Finn frowned and said to me discontentedly, "Alice, Tessa meant well, it's not appropriate for you to say that." I let out a cold laugh and replied, "I am your fiancé, yet she asks you out the day before our wedding. What kind of goodwill is that?" Tessa hurriedly tried to mediate, her tone laced with a hint of appeasement, "Please don't argue over me, I'm really sorry." Finn rubbed his temples and said tiredly, "Alice, can we stop dwelling on this issue? I'm just really exhausted right now. Let's talk about it tomorrow." I huffed, somewhat annoyed. Well, being tired can't be helped after playing all day. I really couldn't understand how he could say something like that. Finn lifted his head to look at me with dissatisfaction, his tone reflecting his irritation. What exactly do you want? I went to the park with Tessa, but our relationship is quite pure. Tessa interjected. Alice, aren't you being a little unreasonable? You and Finn are about to get married, yet you don't even have this bit of trust. I smiled coldly and said, what are you doing? You clearly know that Finn is going to marry me, yet you still ask him out the day before the wedding. Don't think I don't understand your intentions. Finn angrily said to Alice, Alice, Tessa is my friend. How can you speak to her like that? Please be more mindful. I responded with a cold smile. She was interfering in our relationship, so why should I be polite to her? Alice, what do you mean by that? Are you questioning the relationship between Tessa and me? Since that's the case, there's nothing more to discuss. Let's break up. He looked up, his gaze firm and his tone strong. He thought I would, like before, immediately admit my mistakes after the breakup. But this time, he was wrong. I locked eyes with him and said clearly, fine, since you chose her, let's break up. You can go get married tomorrow, I won't disturb you anymore. As soon as I finished speaking, the room fell silent. Finn's expression changed from surprise to anger as he said, Alice, how could you do this? We're about to get married, and now you're talking about breaking up. What do you take me for? I coldly looked at him and replied, wasn't it you who just made a heartfelt confession in the park? Now I support you. Finn was at a loss for words and didn't know how to respond. Tessa took the opportunity to say that Alice must have spoken out of impulse and that Finn shouldn't take it to heart. You can't break up because of me, that would make me the sinner. Irrelevant to this, Finn said to me that she was just making a fuss and looking for an excuse to break up. I turned my face away, not wanting to continue this argument. Tessa gently patted my shoulder and said, Alice, as a woman, you need to learn to understand men. Her touch made me uncomfortable, and I instinctively pushed her hand away. Ah! Tessa exclaimed loudly. Finn immediately frowned and said, Alice, how could you do this to Tessa? He hurriedly checked Tessa's hand, and I felt a wave of discomfort. I sneered and replied, this is my house. If you want to be affectionate, please find another place. Alice. Finn's eyes reddened as he added, how could you have changed like this? Do you really want to break up with me? I calmly responded, asking him to move out as soon as possible, and assured him that I would handle the wedding arrangements. Suddenly, Finn rushed over and hugged me tightly, the grip so strong that it took my breath away. I pushed him away with all my strength. Tears glistened in his eyes as he choked out a question, asking what our relationship over the past years meant to him. Seeing his tears stirred something inside me. After all, loving him had become a habit of many years. But I quickly collected myself. I couldn't let his tears deceive me any longer. Feelings? I chuckled coldly, it was you who destroyed our relationship with your own hands. If you truly cared, you wouldn't keep hurting me over and over again. Finn seemed to want to say something, but I raised my hand to stop him. I didn't want to hear any more of your explanations. I took a deep breath, my tone firm, it was the last time. If you still have a shred of conscience, please leave right now. I turned to Tessa and said, you too. You are not welcome here. Finn and Tessa looked at each other in shock, clearly taken aback by my attitude. I pushed them toward the door, opened it wide, and urged them to leave quickly. I didn't sleep all night, listening to the noises outside slowly fade away until it was finally quiet. In the morning, I stepped out of my bedroom and found the living room in disarray, with Finn's clothes scattered across the sofa and unfinished red wine left on the coffee table. I took a deep breath and picked up my phone to call both sets of parents. My parents were shocked, but ultimately respected my decision. Finn's parents were very angry, accusing me of being ungrateful and letting down their expectations. I didn't say much, just sent them the video I captured at the seaside park last night. I wonder what they will think when they see their son getting close to his old flame on the eve of his wedding. While I was tidying up the room, I noticed that Finn had already taken most of his personal belongings, leaving just a few scattered items behind. Just as I was about to reach out to him, my best friend Lila called. She asked, Alice, have you seen the post Finn shared on his moments? I curiously asked, what friend circle? Lila sighed and said, Finn and Tessa are officially together. I was taken aback for a moment and then gave a wry smile. They started dating so quickly. Lila sent me a photo. In the picture, Finn and Tessa were standing together on a romantic beach, smiling broadly. The caption reads, the fateful connection is finally back together. Looking at this photo, I feel a mix of emotions. 3 years of love, 2 years of living together, and I realize that I could be so easily replaced in his eyes. Lila asked with concern, are you okay? I calmly responded, I'm fine. It's for the best to cut ties completely. 2 days later, Finn sent me a text message. It was very brief, just asking when he could come to pick up the remaining clothes. Although he didn't say much, a photo he attached made me feel a wave of anxiety. It was a selfie of him and Tessa at an upscale restaurant. I couldn't help but check his social media for his recent updates, which only made me feel worse. I remembered that last year I invited him to a concert, but he said he needed to be alone due to work stress and turned me down. Now he can accompany Tessa to various high-end venues, they dine at a Michelin 3-star restaurant, drink at top-notch bars, and enjoy a couples package at luxury clubs. Seeing these photos, I finally realized that Finn never truly loved me. In his eyes, I was never worth his genuine affection. Even though Tessa had once left Finn for someone else, he still can't forget her. I take a deep breath and reply to his message, telling him he can come by any time to pick up his things. The moment I pressed the send button, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was time to reorganize this home that belonged to me and start a fresh chapter in my life. Before I knew it, a month had passed. During this time, I gradually found myself again. I no longer catered to his preferences, felt anxious about his emotions, or worried about the relationship. In the days without Finn, my life felt much easier and more relaxed. But just when I thought everything had settled down, Finn suddenly sent me a message, Alice, you've been calm for so long, you should have figured things out by now. I stared at the screen, unable to believe he actually reached out to me. I could overlook what happened that day, as long as you realize your own issues, we could start anew. I took a deep breath, suppressing my anger as I replied, Finn, have you forgotten what you did? On the eve of our wedding, you and Tessa went on a date at the seaside park until late at night, and then you even posted sweet photos on social media. Now you tell me to let it go. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a few seconds, and then Finn's angry voice broke the silence, you haven't even checked in on me these past few days. Do you have any conscience left? I was actually considering forgiving you. Hearing this, I could no longer control my emotions. Finn, what else do you want from me? Did I abandon you? Did I betray this relationship? What right do you have to say you forgive me? Do you know how much I've sacrificed for you over the past 3 years? And what about you? When we were about to get married, you chose someone else. Now you come to find me, how could you do this? I really don't understand what right you have to blame me. Your attitude is truly perplexing. Looking back on the 3 years I spent with Finn, I put in a lot of effort. He often works late, and I always wait for him at home, preparing a hot midnight snack and a relaxing bath. He enjoys home-cooked meals, so I taught myself various dishes just to make delicious food for him every day. He hoped I could stay with him and even canceled a long-awaited trip with my best friend. I did so many things for him that I can't remember the exact number anymore. However, I never expected that all those years of effort would be in vain. Alice. He sounded very anxious on the phone. We only had some differences, so why are you being so heartless? Is it really as simple as just saying goodbye? What about the 3 years of our relationship? Do you still care about me at all? I understand. Have you already found a new partner, which is why you want to break up with me? I'm telling you, Alice, no way. Finn gritted his teeth and said, you can't get rid of me that easily. After saying this, he angrily hung up the phone. 3 years? I gave a bitter smile. What does 3 years mean? I waited for him for a full 7 years. We were high school classmates, and I have secretly liked him since then. He was sunny and cheerful, academically excellent, and the envy of everyone at school. For someone as introverted as me, it was quite normal to develop feelings for someone like him. At that time, he was already in a relationship with Tessa, so I had to keep my feelings buried deep inside. After we graduated from college, Tessa decisively broke up with Finn to pursue further studies abroad. Coincidentally, Finn's father's business failed around the same time, forcing Finn to give up his chance to continue his education and stay in the country to work. The heartbreak and family changes made Finn very upset, and I felt sympathetic towards him for having to bear all of this alone. Therefore, I took the initiative to get closer to him, hoping to help alleviate some of his stress. At that time, I believed that as long as I stayed by his side, he would eventually notice my goodness and come to like me. But reality is harsh. I took a deep breath and decided to block all of Finn's contact information. Since I had chosen to break up, I should completely cut off all ties. However, I underestimated Finn's persistence. After being blocked, he seemed to change completely, starting to reach out to me from various unfamiliar numbers. At first, his messages were filled with anger and accusations. Alice, were all the words you said about loving me lies? You are such a liar. How could you easily say we should break up? Have you ever thought about how I and my parents feel? You're being too selfish. As time went by, his attitude gradually softened, and he began to plead, Alice, don't hold a grudge for too long. It's been so long since that incident, you should have calmed down by now, right? I've already apologized to you, could you, for the sake of our many years of friendship, forgive me? Just tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. Faced with the constant barrage of text messages and phone calls, I chose to ignore them. I continued to maintain my normal routine, going to work and coming home on time, and spending my days off shopping and hanging out with friends. I decided to fully enjoy my time alone and rediscover my own life. A few days later, at the office, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. After a moment's hesitation, I decided to answer it. Alice, don't hang up. Finn's voice came through the phone, sounding a bit anxious. I was silent for a few seconds and calmly asked, is something wrong? He replied, I'm downstairs at your office, can you come down for a minute? Just 5 minutes. I originally intended to decline, but considering the workplace situation, I didn't want to create any unpleasantness, so I simply replied, okay. When I arrived in the lobby, I saw Finn in a suit, holding a bouquet of flowers. Upon spotting me, he immediately came over. Alice, these are for you, he said, handing me the flowers with a flattering smile on his face. I didn't accept the flowers, I simply said coldly, just say what you want to say. Finn's smile faltered for a moment before he replied, Alice, I know I was wrong. What happened that day was my fault, I shouldn't have gone out alone with Tessa. But it really was just a chance encounter, nothing special. I looked at him calmly and said, Finn, we've already broken up. You don't need to explain anything to me. However, Finn's tone suddenly became agitated as he said, we've been together for so many years, how can you just say it's over? Have you considered my feelings? At that moment, I noticed several colleagues curiously watching us. I took a deep breath and spoke in a lower voice, saying, this isn't the right place for a conversation. Please leave. Finn insisted, Alice, please give me a chance, okay? I promise I won't let you down again. I looked at him and felt a wave of exhaustion. Finn, that's enough. It's over for us, please respect my decision. After I said that, I turned to leave. Finn called out from behind, Alice, do you really not love me at all anymore? I paused without turning around and softly replied, I used to love you. But now, I want to focus on loving myself. With that, I stepped into the elevator, leaving Finn standing alone in the lobby, the bouquet in his hands looking especially conspicuous. I thought that after having a clear conversation with Finn, he would choose to leave. But as it turned out, I was being too naive. A few weeks later, on a weekend while I was organizing my closet at home, I suddenly heard the doorbell ring. Peeking through the peephole, I was shocked to see Finn standing outside, holding a paper bag. I hesitated for a moment, but ultimately decided to open the door. Alice, Finn had an excited smile on his face. I finally found you. I didn't let him in and only coldly asked, what do you want? Finn's smile faltered a bit as he replied, I want to talk to you. I've thought a lot during this time, and I realize I was wrong. I sighed and said, Finn, we've talked about this clearly already. There's nothing more to discuss. Finn said anxiously, Alice, I truly have changed. I've completely cut off all contact with Tessa. Please give me a chance, okay? Just as I was about to refuse him again, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and saw my new neighbor, Leno. We have many common interests and occasionally go out together to share our favorite books. Leno smiled and said, Alice, I finished the book I borrowed from you last time, and I'm here to return it today. Then he noticed Finn and said, oh, am I interrupting? Finn's expression suddenly changed, and he asked Alice, who is this? I hadn't had a chance to explain yet when Finn rushed to the door and stared at Leno, asking, who are you? Why are you looking for Alice? Leno looked confused, and I felt both embarrassed and angry. Finn, calm down. This is my neighbor. Finn turned to me, a hint of disappointment in his eyes, and said, Alice, have you already found a new friend so soon? I took a deep breath and calmly said, Finn, you misunderstand. Even so, we have already broken up, and you have no right to interfere in my private life. Finn suddenly let out a cold laugh and said, good, very good. Alice, I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. It seems that our relationship over the years meant nothing to you. Leno couldn't hold back any longer. Sir, you misunderstood. I'm just here to return a book. I smiled apologetically at Leno and then firmly said to Finn, please leave. We're really done. Finn stormed out angrily, and before leaving, he said, Alice, you will regret this. After sending Leno off, I leaned against the door and let out a sigh of relief. Finn hadn't contacted me for several days. Just when I thought he had finally given up, an unexpected blow struck me. My social media account suddenly received a lot of negative comments. Strangers left messages on my photos, accusing me of not valuing relationships and betraying love. Then, I discovered that my personal information had been leaked. My phone number and workplace were published online by someone. I received numerous calls from unknown numbers, and the company's front desk constantly received inquiries about me. Eventually, the situation escalated when someone started distributing flyers at the company entrance, featuring my photo and warning everyone to be cautious of me. It was only then that I realized Finn was secretly retaliating against me. I immediately contacted the HR department to explain the situation. They expressed understanding but suggested that I work from home for the time being until things settle down. I also reported the situation to the police, but they said it was difficult to gather evidence in such cases and advised me to keep any proof I had, suggesting I report it again if things escalated. Just when I was unsure of what to do, I received a message from Leno, Alice, how have you been lately? I've heard some rumors. I sighed and briefly explained the situation. Leno was silent for a moment, then said, Alice, I have a friend who is very experienced in cybersecurity. If you need it, I can ask him for help to see if we can trace the source of these attacks. I felt a bit touched, but still politely declined, thank you, Leno. He replied, it's okay, we're friends after all. Upon hearing this, I felt a warmth in my heart. However, I also didn't want to feel indebted to someone for no reason. As events unfolded, I realized I needed to speak up for myself. I took a deep breath and decided to make a public statement on social media. I carefully considered every word to ensure that my expression was clear and impactful. Hello everyone, I'm Alice. Recently, there has been a lot of misinformation about me online. I would like to clarify a few points. I have indeed ended a relationship, but it was not without reason. This decision was made after careful consideration, stemming from betrayal and deception on the part of my partner. The man seen with me in some of the photos online is my colleague, and we share only a professional relationship. Regarding the spreading of false information and the invasion of my privacy, I have preserved relevant evidence and will take legal measures to protect my rights. I understand everyone's concern about this matter, but please do not easily believe one-sided accounts. Each of us has the right to pursue happiness and the responsibility to be accountable for our choices. After publishing this statement, I also included some screenshots as evidence, which involve inappropriate behavior by my ex and his new girlfriend. I have handled the parts related to privacy. After the clarification statement was released, the situation quickly took a turn for the better. Many netizens began to share my statement and expressed their support. Some of those who attacked me earlier also offered their apologies. Several media outlets have also taken notice of this incident and conducted more in-depth reports. Finn and Tessa's arrogance did not last long. The day after I publicly responded, they reached out to me, wanting to resolve the situation. Finn sent me a voice message saying, "Alice, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have sent those false messages. I was just too upset. Could you give me a chance to apologize to you in person?" Tessa doesn't have my contact information, so she sent me an email, "Alice. We really did make a mistake in this situation. But you also don't want things to get worse, right? If you're willing to withdraw that evidence, I promise I won't interfere in your life with Finn again." I didn't respond to them immediately. Instead, I forwarded the message to my lawyer. My lawyer advised me to remain silent and not make any promises too easily. A few days later, Finn reached out to me again. This time his tone was noticeably softer. "Alice, can we meet and talk? I have some things I want to discuss with you in person." After some consideration, I decided to meet him and chose the cafe we used to frequent. In the cafe, Finn appeared a bit fatigued. He spoke first, saying, "Alice, I truly regret it. I shouldn't have treated you that way. I don't know how to face the reality of losing you." I looked at him calmly and said, "Finn, have you thought about the fact that this not only hurt me but also hurt you?" Finn looked up, his eyes filled with hope. "Alice, is there still a chance for us?" I shook my head and firmly replied, "No, Finn. We both need to look forward. It's time to put this behind us." I finished speaking and got up to leave the cafe, leaving Finn alone to reflect. After that, Finn went missing. A few days later, I received a letter. When I opened it, there were only a few brief sentences. "I'm sorry, I ultimately couldn't face my mistakes. I hope you find happiness. We will meet again in another life." The letter contained a photo of us together when we were happy, with the word cherish written on the back. As I looked at this brief letter, tears streamed down my face. The tears blurred my vision, and the paper in my hands trembled slightly, filled with mixed emotions. I couldn't forgive Finn for the hurt he caused me, yet his fate pained my heart. When exactly did we start down this path of divergence? Leno gently patted my shoulder and handed me a cup of warm water. He didn't say anything, just quietly stayed by my side. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my emotions, and wiped away the tears at the corner of my eyes with the back of my hand. "Thank you, Leno," I said softly. "I just need some time to sort out my thoughts." Leno nodded in understanding. I turned and walked to the window, pushing it open to let the fresh air ease my mood. As I gazed at the distant skyline, a wave of indescribable pain and conflict surged within me. I whispered, "Finn, I hate you, but I once loved you so much. If there is really another life, it's better if we don't meet again."